Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm showing you how to make a very quick and simple card for Valentine's Day using your Cricut machine. You can keep things simple with solid colours of cardstock or mix things up with a little bit of pattern. Whichever one you choose, you're going to need the free SVG in order to get started. Here's how to find it. You can find the free files to make this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs, or click the link in the description of this video to go to the tutorial where you can download straight from that page. You'll need to register a free account on my website in order to download any of the designs. The download comes in a zip folder. Before you can get the files into your cutting machine software, you'll need to unzip that folder. Visit craftwithsarah.com/help for instructions on how to do that, as well as a wide range of other tutorials on how to use your Cricut, Silhouette, or Scan and Cut machine. This is what the SVG file looks like once it's uploaded into Cricut Design Space. It should load in at 10 inches wide and 7 inches tall. If yours is different, change it to match. It will make a 5x7 inch card when folded. The design does load in ready to cut, but you may wish to change the colours on the screen or to add a score line if you have a scoring wheel or stylus for your Cricut to make it easier to know where to fold. First up, let's take a look at changing the colours. In the Layers panel, click into the arrow and then you'll see all of the different layers in here. If you don't see the Layers panel, then look for the little layer icon on the top right of the screen. Click that and then the Layers panel will appear. You can click into the individual layers and then change the colour to whatever you want to cut it from. It's easy to change, and you can change it back again if you want to, either by clicking and putting it back manually or by pressing the undo button. I'll leave mine as these colours for now. I'll show you shortly how you can pick the best colours by choosing the one for your top layer first and then doing the other ones once you've cut that one, because it doesn't always work out as you might think with placing the top layer with all those little cutouts on top of another colour. Sometimes it's a bit hard to see the pictures through depending on your contrast and patterns and other things that you've got going on. But before we get on to that, let's add a score line. Click on the card and then press the ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel or the one that's underneath in this little floating menu. Go into Shapes and choose a score line, and then you can close out of the window on the left by clicking the arrow. Change the height to 7 inches. Then drag a box around the score line and the base card. Press Align and Center, and that will put the score line exactly in the middle of the base card. Then, with those two layers still selected, press Attach. That's the paperclip icon at the bottom of the floating menu or at the bottom of the Layers panel. To move it back down to the bottom, use this drop down here, click in there and press Center Back. And then if you want to, you can move it back into position. And that's all you need to change. So now I can go ahead and press Make. You can change the paper size if you want to in the drop down here. I use A4 as that's our common paper size here in the UK. In order to take up less space, I'm going to rotate this round and press the Shift key on my keyboard when I'm rotating to get it exactly 90 degrees, and then move it so it's almost at the top left. I just find that this way I get less wastage on the card. There'll only be this little bit that I can't use, but all of this space here I'll be able to use on another project another day. And I'll do the same for this one. And this one will be A4 as well, but I can't rotate that round because it's already almost filling up the whole sheet. You don't have to move it away from the edge, but I like to move it just the tiniest bit in. I find it helps get a cleaner cut some of the time if it's not so close to the edge. When making these cards, I find it easiest to choose my paper for the front bit with all of the patterns cut out first, and then when I've got that cut out, then I choose the other colour for the bit underneath and the base card. Let's take a little look at why that is, and also some tips on choosing the best cardstock colours to make sure you can see all of your lovely patterns. When choosing your colours of cardstock for the top layer that has all of the pictures cut out and the one that goes underneath to see through the gaps, you want to choose some cardstock that's got good contrast between it so that you can see those shapes really clearly. Here's a little look at how it's different depending on whether you go for dark or light cardstock. For both of these cards, I've used the same gold cardstock underneath, but this one, you see I've got a shimmery black card on the top layer, and on this one, I've used a white instead. So it's exactly the same card design, but you can end up with a completely different effect depending on whether you go for a darker colour on top or a lighter one. You can use patterned paper for your top layer, but bear in mind that if you do that, you sort of want to try and find something that's maybe different colours or a gradient or something like that, rather than something with a strong picture pattern on it. Because the stronger the pattern, the harder it will be to make out all of the shapes. For instance, here's a look at a different card which has got a flower pattern on it, and I've used a flowery pattern paper for the background. Now, this is actually showing up a lot better on camera than it does in real life. In real life, it's quite hard to see all of those pictures, and it doesn't really stand out very much, especially when you compare it to something with high contrast like the hearts. Whereas with solid colours, on this one, you can instantly see, putting these next to each other, this one stands out a lot more with all of those shapes than this one. So I think on this card, it was a combination of two things that makes it hard to see. The fact that the pattern's got a lot going on, and the shiny blue underneath is quite similar in colour to the blues in here, so there's not enough contrast for it to pick up. Here's another example for this star card. The background pattern again is quite busy, there's a lot going on, and while there is a lot more contrast in this bright pink glitter than the pale colour of the pattern paper, it's still quite hard to see all of those shapes. Again, it's showing up better on the camera than it is in real life. But if I compare that to this one, this has got a very, very pale blue underneath and a darker blue glitter on top. It's much more obvious to see the shapes. Here are some other examples of how you can use different colours, and these ones have got pattern paper, but because it's very subtle and it doesn't have any pictures on it, and the colour underneath is much darker, you can still see it beautifully, but it adds a little bit more visual interest having that pattern on it than if, for instance, you just did the solid colour. And similarly on this one, this is from that same paper pack, I think, with just a little marble effect on there. And I've got a purple glitter behind that really stands out. And then this one, I've got a shimmery colour on the top and a holographic underneath, which again, it is still showing up quite well. It's a bit hard to see because it's reflecting the camera lights, but this one, unlike the other ones, shows up better in real life than it does on the screen. Alright, so I mentioned when we were looking in Design Space that it can be easiest to choose the colour for your cutout piece first and then decide on the other ones. So that's what I've done for this one to show you why that's a good idea. I've got my cutout here and I've used a pattern paper. It's got a nice different colour effect on it and some subtle lines, but I don't think it'll be too busy. I think we'll be alright with this one. So originally I was going to use this gold, and when I put the 12 by 12 piece of this before I cut it out onto this gold, it looked really obviously different, so I thought it was going to be fine. But now that I've got it cut out, it's actually not very clear because the colours are too similar. You can tell I thought it was going to work because I even cut this to size, but it's not really showing up enough for me to be happy with it. So let's take a look at some other colours just to give some examples of how the different colours can affect what you see. So here's a bright yellow, and that one shows up quite well because it is bright, but doesn't really go with the colours of the card. So I'm not overly a fan of that one. You could try white to make it quite plain. That looks nice and that's quite subtle. I've got this glitter card, and this might end up being too similar. That actually looks quite nice. It is subtle, doesn't stand out all that much, but it's kind of nice how the colours of this match the green here and then it goes into the blue and the purple. It's very pretty, but it doesn't stand out as well as it maybe could. And then we've got a dark purple glitter card. So of all the ones we've tried so far, that one stands out the most because it's a really deep, dark colour compared to everything that we've got going on in the pattern over here. Then we've got a very dark purple, and this will show up the most out of everything. Hopefully you can see on there just how obvious those little pictures are now showing up when we compared it to something like even the white. You don't see those hearts as well as you see them on here. And then finally I've got a silver glitter to try. That is not obvious at all. You can see on the screen and I can see in real life it's you can't notice those patterns. It's all just way too similar and you can't make out the hearts. I actually thought this was going to be the best one, and it is probably the worst, the hardest to see. So it goes to show why cutting this one first and then choosing your paper can be a good idea. My two favourites out of all of these were the purple glitter and the gradient glitter. I've got a kind of mid-purple for my very base card. So I think this purple would blend in too much against the base card and it doesn't look all that special. But this one, it's a little harder to see on the card, but you can still make out the pattern. And I think when this is put on there, that's going to look really, really nice. So that's the decision made. I'm going to go for this rainbow card. Here's that piece of glitter card now cut out and put behind the heart. And I don't know if it's too subtle showing the heart through or if it's fine. I'm really conflicted. I think it's okay. It's not the most obvious out of all of the cards I've made, but it is very pretty with that glitter. I have been sat here debating for a few minutes whether I should change it to this one and have the really dark purple, and it would be more like that. So it's a lot more obvious, but this is sparkly. So let's go for the sparkly. Let me know in the comments. Do you think I made the right choice? Or should I have gone with the purple? I don't know. I'm going to go for sparkle. These cards are really nice and quick and easy to put together because it's only 3 bits of card. First up, we'll glue the bit with the cutouts onto the bit underneath. I'm using Barely Art Glue, but any craft glue should be fine. Okay, turn this over and add some glue, being careful not to go over any of the holes. I'm trying to put a few little dabs of glue in some of the gaps between the hearts so we get a good stick. Not loads, you don't need to put some in every single little place. And then stick that in the middle of your backer. I'm pushing down really gently so I don't smush any of that glue into any of the heart shapes. Take your base card and fold it in half. If you've got a brayer tool or a scraper tool or a bone folder or a rolling pin from the kitchen, any of those things, then grab that so that we can get a crisper fold. Fold it in half. I've got my score line to make it easy to know where the middle is. And then I'm going to go down it with my brayer to neaten up that fold. And then choose which side looks the neatest. And that will be what the card gets stuck to. You can glue it for a very flat card or add a bit of dimension with some foam squares, for example these ones from Dot and Dab, but any will do. They come in all different brands and sizes. These ones are 10 by 10 millimeters in size and 2 millimeters thick. I've got a pack I've already opened, so I'll add this. I just think popping it out a little bit with the foam squares for a bit of dimension makes the card look more interesting. But of course, it's completely up to you. As well as putting some in the corners, You want to make sure you've got some around the edges and in the middle too. If I was just to do that and not have any foam squares in the middle, there's nothing to hold it level in this big area of card, so it might dip downwards like this and not lie flat. A couple more foam squares will prevent that from happening. Peel off the tops to reveal the stickiness underneath. And then put this on the middle of the card. Try and line it up straight, which is the thing I am terrible at. Push down to get it all nice and stuck. And then there is your Cutout Shapes card, all finished. So that's the heart design with a very subtle look to it. Remember, depending on your card choice, it might be looking a lot more obvious. Completely depends on your colours. If you'd like to make any of the other shapes that I showed you during this video, we've got the Lucky Shamrock for a good luck card or for St. Patrick's Day, an Easter egg, a butterfly, a flower, and a star design, then follow the link in the description of this video to find all of these cards. If you're a Papercraft Porch member, you can download all of these using your design credits at no additional cost, or if you're not a Papercraft Porch member, you can purchase the designs individually. To find out more about Papercraft Porch, head to craftwithsarah.com/join. And of course, you've got the heart design, and this one is free to download. I hope that you enjoyed making these cards with me today. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and card making ideas. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!